The United States government has acknowledged the existence of unidentified flying objects, but their stance and level of knowledge about them is not entirely clear. Back in June 2021, the United States government released a report on unidentified aerial phenomena, which is the new term used to describe these mysterious aircrafts. The report, issued by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, stated that there were 144 reports of unidentified aerial phenomena from 2004 to 2021, with only one of them having an identifiable explanation. As of right now, though, officials haven't released any more information on this topic, leading amateur researchers to suggest that they're not giving away all of the answers and that they're holding on to substantial evidence which could prove once and for all what these objects are. Going back a few years ago, a man overheard two security guards talking, and they detailed that in the early hours of the morning, something was being transported out of Edwards Air Force Base. He overheard the guards say that the object would be transported at around 1:30 in the morning, and so he decided to wait in his car to see what the Air Force Base was transporting. The man reported that in the distance he could see a police car with its lights on, and behind it were several other police cars escorting a large truck. The man said that he couldn't believe what he was seeing, and that the object on the back of the truck appeared to be in the shape of a disc. Many said that the man was brave for doing this, and that he may have caught genuine proof of a mysterious aircraft. Although the man was able to follow the military guards and capture proof of this encounter, others said that he was lucky not to have been spotted, and suggested that if he was caught by officers, then he may have been given a prison sentence. Oddly enough, although the man was able to capture clear photographs of an aircraft in the shape of a disc, some online users came forward and said that it wasn't an unidentified aircraft, and was actually an aircraft that belonged to the United States Navy. The aircraft in question is called the X-46B. According to military websites, the project was funded under a $635 million contract, which was awarded to the United States Navy in 2007. By January 2012, the total program cost had grown to over $800 million. The aircraft certainly looks futuristic, but according to military insiders, the program had a rough start, and not long after being awarded the program, it was soon scrapped in favor of a less stealthy aircraft. Interestingly, various military bases have been home to strange encounters, which have led former military workers to come forward with their strange encounters. One such event happened at the Edwards Air Force Base. Edwards Air Force Base sits amid the dusty plains of the Mojave Desert, home to the Earth's hottest place, Death Valley, where temperatures fluctuate from scorching hot in the summer to freezing cold in the winter. The desert is a hostile and dangerous place, but it's also one of America's most fascinating places for a number of reasons. Geographically, the area is unique. Furthermore, the first space shuttle mission, Columbia, landed at Edwards on its return to Earth in April 1981. However, there's a reason much more relevant to this video as to why we're taking a look at the base. Edwards Air Force Base, by location and the majority of its purpose, is just a regular military installation, but it also serves a joint purpose. The base essentially controls activities at the nearby Homey Airport, an area that in recent years has become synonymous with strange activity. One would imagine that some strange things must be seen late at night, that far out in the desert, surrounded by nothing but open air and dusty expanses. One night in 1965, an air traffic controller at the base had a strange encounter with what he believed was an aircraft in the shape of a disc. In 1965, Edwards, like US Air Force bases all over the country, were on high alert for suspicious activity in the skies. Tension with the Soviet Union was mounting, and the most shocking thing that radar controllers in the Nevada desert could have seen back then would have been a Russian aircraft. However, the objects that appeared above the base, apparently flying very high and very fast, appeared in sets of 7 to 12 and looked like pulsating lights against the night sky. However, the controllers couldn't be sure of what they'd seen, and as a precaution, a fighter jet was scrambled from the nearby George Air Force Base. Yet, the strange lights continued to climb into the night sky, far outpacing the fighter jet. Controllers noted that the craft seemed to simply fade away into space, becoming one of the stars. The thing about the Edwards incident is that the eyewitness reports were credible, so the crew at the base most definitely did see something that night. It's just not clear what it was that they saw. We don't know what sort of threat, or how bad a threat these mysterious aircrafts posed, but when the evidence was released only about 15 years ago, People realized that the government had gone to great lengths at the time to cover up these sorts of incidents. These mysterious aircrafts have been a thing of immense fascination across the world for thousands of years, but Americans were amongst the first to take a continued interest in the phenomena. And when multiple soldiers, those who we trust with keeping us safe, are left confused and ultimately convinced by their own sightings, you can't help but think that there might be something else out there. These are just a few examples of what military officials have encountered, and there's definitely no shortage of these types of stories. It's interesting when we hear about these types of sightings that have been witnessed by everyday people, but when military officials come forward and share their stories, they seem more credible. This is because these are the people that work around these areas on a daily basis, so they are used to seeing military equipment on a daily basis. No matter what your thoughts surrounding these incidents, one thing that can't be ignored is that there are only two possible conclusions to make when it comes to repeated UFO sightings: either a truth within the story or false. The United Kingdom is no stranger to these mysterious aircrafts, and since the early 1980s, there have been various mass sightings of strange aircrafts that don't match vehicles such as planes or helicopters. Described as one of the strangest aerial sightings ever made, bordering on the theory of being a possible religious experience, is that of the well-recorded incident referred to by researchers as the Devon Flying Cross sighting. While officers Roger Willey and Clifford Walcott were making their way back to the police station, driving from Holsworthy to Hatherley at around 4 a.m, they were diverted from their investigation when they spotted a series of floating lights in the sky that seemed to group together and take on the shape of a cross. According to the two officers, the sighting took place on the 24th of October back in 1967 and have yet to find an adequate explanation for what they encountered. The now retired officers recounted the following statement surrounding the incident. "We were making our way back between Holsworthy and Hatherley when we saw this unusual bright light in the sky. We both registered that we'd seen something. It was something we couldn't logically account for. It was something that I hadn't seen before, I haven't seen since, and something that nobody can explain exactly what it was." The two officers described the craft as a bright object in the shape of a cross, hovering slightly above the height of the tree line roughly 40 meters from where their car was parked. Unsure of what action would be most appropriate to take, the two officers began to pursue the lights, which began to pulsate for about 15 minutes while flying away from their car, still following the path of the road at about the speed of 80 miles per hour. It was at this point that the officers got a clear look at the lights, only to notice that something was off about their appearance. The two officers both described that the lights seemed to have been continually out of focus of their eyes, and said that it was as if they were viewing this object through wet glass. Roger provided a later statement describing the lights as they followed them for this 15-minute period. He said the following: "My view of it was that it was moving slowly. It wasn't a star, it was bright, and it was white. If you look at glass which has got rain on, it was the same sort of inference. It was a splash. It was just eerie." As Roger and Clifford continued following the craft, according to their witness account, at about 4:23 in the morning, the cross was joined by a second flying object that appeared to join the shape. It was also at this point that a third witness would enter the scene, a man by the name of Mr. Christopher Garner, a local resident of Hatherley, who also began to follow the light while driving down the same road. According to Christopher Garner, he originally believed that he was stuck in some kind of trance as the object passed overhead, unsure of what was real and what wasn't, recounting that the entire experience left him questioning whether or not he was experiencing a nightmare. This nightmare would not last for very long, however, as after the distance of 14 miles were passed, the object would fade away and seem to disappear in an instant, with no sign of the lights or the cross being anywhere nearby. The sighting was believed to have lasted from 4 in the morning to about 5 in the morning. Unfortunately for the men involved, this would not mark the end of this strange and otherworldly incident. Shortly following their sighting, officers Roger and Clifford claimed to have been approached by the British Ministry of Defence for the purpose of an ongoing investigation into the unidentified aircraft phenomenon, as well as warning them about coming forward with their encounter. Roger would later provide the following comment to the BBC national media. "We were visited by a boffin from the Ministry of Defence who told us that we were still officers under the Official Secrets Acts, and they would rather we kept it to ourselves." Fortunately for researchers interested in the unknown, this approach from the British Ministry of Defence would do very little to discourage Officer Roger, Clifford, and motorist Christopher Garner from going to the news media and reporting their encounter. When reports investigated the claims surrounding the strange intimidation tactic taken by the British Ministry of Defence, they would provide the explanation that they were doing their own research into the claims made by the three men and found them to be entirely baseless, providing the additional explanation that the sighting was nothing more than a misidentification of Venus in the sky. This explanation would be put into question, however, as throughout that same month, numerous additional sightings of a flying cross would be seen all throughout the Devon region. Additionally, during the late 2000s, slowly released documents from the British National Archives would tell a different story, when unclassified documents would be uncovered surrounding the Devon flying cross encounter, believing the sighting to have been a genuine mysterious aircraft, directly contradicting the public statement made by the Ministry of Defence during 1967 surrounding the incident. NASA's chief Bill Nelson has said that NASA continues its search for life in the universe. NASA has been at the forefront of space exploration, sending humans into space and launching probes to the edges of our solar system. Each year we learn new things about the universe that we live in, helping us to better understand what could be out there. Interestingly, Bill Nelson has been vocal about mysterious aircrafts and has shown a continued interest in their capabilities and where they're coming from. One of the most recent announcements to come from them was that national security agencies are well aware of these objects, but noted that as each new report comes in, new questions are raised, and the majority of the time these questions never get answered. These national security agencies have admitted that many of these aircrafts seem to have the ability to perform maneuvers that are highly advanced. According to one study that was released by top intelligence officials, they reported that in total, over 500 unidentified aircrafts had been observed in protected airspace or near sensitive facilities. The report was submitted to United States officials, and those in Congress and also the Director of National Intelligence have said that further studies are needed and that we need to better understand what these aircrafts are. One of the positives that comes from these reports is there's been a reduced stigma. For years, anyone showing interest in this topic would usually be dismissed, but because high-up military officials, soldiers, pilots, and former intelligence members have come forward with their testimonies, the topic has since been taken more seriously, and now even NASA is getting involved in these studies, saying that they are working with military officials to help aid where they can. Due to the amount of sightings that are reported every year, along with the hundreds of thousands of declassified documents that have been submitted by government officials, it's led some to say that perhaps this whole time, intelligent life has been right under our noses. Mysterious aircrafts have long been a hot topic, with some believing that the crafts are genuine, while others have said that they can be easily explained as everyday things like planes and military aircrafts. Ideas for what these are range from advanced crafts sent from other worlds, advanced probes that may be looking out for other life forms, or even that these things are forms of higher intelligence, and that as of right now we can't understand their workings. Bill Nelson, who is NASA's newest administrator, has said that he wants to get to the bottom of what these things are, saying that NASA will actively research this topic in order to help give a definitive answer for what they are. He openly said that the reports by military officials have caught the interest of scientists worldwide, and that their goal is to try and further research this topic in order to better understand what eyewitnesses have been seeing. These comments have divided people. NASA has never been open to the idea of mysterious aircrafts, actively going out of its way to shoot down any ideas that these crafts are genuine, which has frustrated those who have looked into the phenomena. But some have said that this could be a good chance for the company to be more open-minded about this topic, with many saying that it's clear that something is going on, noting that military pilots have been encountering these aircrafts for years now, and that it's only been in the last few years that people are starting to open up to the idea of these aircrafts being genuine. Recent reports showed us that out of hundreds of sightings of mysterious aircrafts that were reported by pilots, only one of these could be explained. It's due to this that people are hoping that NASA can shine a light on what these things are, and that it may usher us into a new era where we become more open-minded. Those who are heavily invested in the topic have said that it's good that a high-up NASA official has acknowledged these aircrafts, and hope that we can get an answer in the near future for what these things are. Bill Nelson said the following about the sightings made by United States Navy pilots. "I have received the classified version as well. I've seen the report. It said basically what we thought, and that's that we don't know the answer for what those Navy pilots saw, and those Navy pilots knew that they saw something. They tracked it, locked their radar onto it, and they followed it. It would suddenly move from one location to another, and what the report does tell us is that there's been over 140 of these sightings. So naturally, what I ask our scientists to do is to see if there's any kind of explanation from a scientific point of view, and as of right now, I'm waiting for their report." He was then asked about his feelings about what he thought they were, and if he could explain them. He said the following: "I talked to the Navy pilots when we were briefed in the Senate Armed Services Committee, and my feeling is that there is clearly something there. It may not necessarily be an extraterrestrial, but if it's a technology that some of our adversaries have, then we better be concerned. When it comes to the universe, it's so large that we have a program in NASA called the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, but thus far, we don't have any receipt of communication from something that would be intelligent." The next question the reporter asked Bill Nelson was, "Do you think this report is just going to create more anxiety and theories around this topic? People want an explanation, and people want to know what these things are." He responded with the following: "Ever since the Navy pilot video came out, people are hungry to know, and they want to know what's out there in the cosmos. Are we alone? Personally, I don't think that we are. The universe is so big, it's 13.5 billion years ago when the universe started, but people are hungry for this kind of information, and we're going to keep on searching." Many people found these comments interesting, as NASA hasn't really been vocal about the topic of mysterious crafts, and when they have been asked questions, they usually just shut them down immediately. But people gave praise to Bill Nelson as it came across that he has a much more open mind. One of the things that people picked up on was the fact that he said the United States is very advanced and that he doesn't think that other countries have this type of technology. The question then put forward is, who owns these things? If the biggest powerhouse on the planet has admitted that it isn't them, and even officials are saying that they don't have this type of technology, then who do they belong to? One of the issues with this is that there's many different theories floating around at the moment, and people have found it strange how these officials are suddenly changing their tune. After all, governments and space agencies have never been vocal about these mysterious crafts, but all of a sudden they are claiming that they don't know what these objects are. There's some who speculated that it's got to the point that they have to be honest, while others have said that they may have a motive of their own, with some noting that whenever this topic gets brought up, it's shortly followed by the military asking for a much bigger budget. NASA is still prioritizing their missions, which look for signs of life. Going back, NASA's then chief scientist Ellen Stofan claimed that by 2025, scientists will most likely discover prominent signs of life somewhere in the universe, saying that all of the data that NASA have gathered point towards us making a big discovery sometime in the near future. This announcement was made while she was speaking at a panel discussion, which heavily focused on NASA's search for habitable worlds. She said the following: "I think we're going to have strong indications of life beyond Earth within a decade, and I think we're going to have definitive evidence within 20 to 30 years. We know where to look. We know how to look. In most cases, we have the technology, and we're on a path to implementing it, and so I think we're definitely on the road." NASA's Space Telescope was retired in 2018, but during its mission, it revealed to scientists that pretty much every star in the sky hosts planets, many of which could have similar conditions to Earth. Just because other planets aren't as similar to Earth, though, it doesn't mean that they can't host life. Researchers have been open about this discussion and have said that when it comes to the universe, it could be filled with weird and wonderful life forms, many of which may not look like anything that we have here on Earth. Paul Hertz, who is director of NASA's Astrophysics Division, described the Milky Way galaxy as being a soggy place. He said the following: "We can see water in the interstellar clouds from which planetary systems and stellar systems form. We can see water in the disks of debris that are going to become planetary systems around other stars, and we can even see comets being dissipated in other solar systems as their star evaporates them. Scientists have now said that we should be focusing on exoplanets. Many of these exoplanets that have been detected are planets with thick and heavy atmospheres that are abundant with hydrogen, which allows for oceans to exist and flourish even under immense amounts of heat. This is the name given to the mini-Neptunes that match the description of potential life-having planets. These planets tend to be fully composed of water with no continents, and often have permanent mist rising from the heated waters. Further research into exoplanets may reveal the truth to us within the next handful of years, as we develop and establish what we truly mean by habitable. Another scientist from the University of Montreal claims that we, as a species, have far too high expectations, saying that there may be other ways of finding other life that are not dinosaurs crawling around on the surface. Even though it is not the easiest thing to do, these mini-Neptunes can be tested. There are countless mini-Neptunes in space, and based on their positions and surroundings, we will be able to correctly guess whether they have a chance at being habitable or not. According to scientists, even if only 5% of the mini-Neptune match the requirements, it would still give scientists an incredible number of planets to investigate. Dr. Niku Madasun from Cambridge's Institute of Astronomy said the following: "This result greatly expands our chances of finding life. By using the host star, astronomers are able to estimate the mass of an exoplanet to determine whether it is made of gas or rock, but it is near impossible to determine whether it has a solid or gas core. However, in 2019, thanks to the Hubble Space Telescope, astronomers were able to glimpse into the atmosphere of K2-18b, one of these mini-Neptunes, and discovered evidence of clouds and water vapor. Furthermore, just recently it was announced that there is a possibility that one of these planets could have enough water to sustain earthly life." In Dr. Niku's words, "For the first time, we demonstrated that planets can be significantly larger than Earth and still have livable conditions. The desired outcome for astronomers is to find an Earth-like planet on which we could thrive, to find the ideal Earth twin, which unfortunately is much easier said than done, considering this planet would have to be around the same mass as Earth, the same size, orbit, and neither too far from the host star, as the oceans would freeze, or too close for the oceans would boil. While exoplanets in the cosmos could surely have Earth-like life on them, scientists have stated it is best not to assume that these planets' conditions will be suitable for humans. Currently, the task is to find alien life, not to find another suitable habitat for ourselves. These mini-Neptunes are an in-between being a gas giant and a dwarf, small versions of our huge icy planets. Unfortunately, as mini-Neptunes are far from us, we have not yet developed a way to study them up close, thus shrouding them in mystery. So, what do you make of these mysterious aircrafts? Where do you think they're coming from? And how do you think they're able to achieve the things they do? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.